So today I want to talk about how important it is as a young player to develop an X factor in your game. So this summer I've been looking for a new team to play for this upcoming season, which means I've had to go to various trials, different events in order to showcase my talent. And throughout these events, I've seen a lot of good players get turned down, a lot of good players get turned away, told that they're not good enough, told that, alright, cool, you're not really going to make the team. And I noticed one common denominator with all these players. And the thing is with these players is that they didn't have that X factor. Now, what do I actually mean by having an X factor? What I mean by having an X factor is simply that they didn't have that one thing in their game that stood out, that made them stand out amongst everyone else. You know, they had the basics, they had, good fundamentals. They could pass the ball, they could dribble decently. If they were an attacker, they could shoot decently. If they were a defender, they were decent at 1v1s, but they didn't have that one thing. They didn't have that one thing that made them stand out as a player, whether it's your dribbling, your ability to go 1v1, because I've noticed a lot with young players, a lot of young players don't really have that ability to go 1v1. You don't really see a lot of wingers who like to play on the touchline. A lot of wingers like to, come inside, be like inverted sort of number 10s. It's very rare these days, I feel like, me watching players, playing with players, that you get a real touchline winger, like a winger like maybe like a Jeremy Doku or a Savinho, just a guy, or even like a Kvaratskhelia, just a guy who likes to hug the touchline and go 1v1 at his man. Maybe it's that makes a player stand out. Maybe it's a player's shooting, just his finishing, sort of like Haaland-esque, where anything around the box, they're finishing it. Maybe it's someone's range of passing, maybe it's someone's 1v1 defending. Whatever it is, these players who got turned down, they didn't have that X factor. They didn't have that little thing to help them stand out, you understand? They didn't have that one thing to help them stand out amongst the rest. And as a result, they sort of just got lost in the crowd, you know what I'm saying? They sort of just got lost in the crowd. Hey, this could be a case of, maybe they just didn't, go out and just sort of impose their will on the game, you know what I'm saying? Because that's another thing with players, that players don't really impose their will on the game. Maybe there was a player at the trials who wasn't as good as other players, but simply because he imposed his will on the game, he was, calling for the ball, communicating with his teammates, just making his presence known. Simply because of that, he got into the team compared to other players. So yeah, today I'll be talking about why it's so important to have an X factor. You need that X factor. You need that something to help you stand out, whether it's a mental, if it's a mental attribute, a technical attribute, or even a physical attribute. You know what I'm saying? Literally something as simple as being left-footed could literally help you get into a team. You know what I'm saying? Being a left-footed centre-back, that's an X factor. You know what I'm saying? Because majority of defenders are right-footed. Literally being a left-footed centre-back, you could get into the team. You can get into the team at that left centre-back position, because obviously if you're a left-footed left centre-back, it's easier to, receive the ball from the goalkeeper or receive the ball from the right centre back, turn out, open out your hips, use your left foot to pass it, whether to your fullback, whether to the winger, whether between the lines to a centre mid. It's easier to do that. So yeah, these are sort of things that help a player have an X factor. So with me, for example, I remember I was at a trial and the coach pulled me aside. We were playing an 11-a-side game, and the coach pulled me aside and he was like, yo, you're a good player. He said that the thing that stood out about me was my awareness and my reading of the game. He said on the ball, he said he was looking at me and I was always checking my shoulders, you understand? I was always checking my shoulders, always scanning, trying to see where my teammates are, where the opponents are, which led to me, never losing the ball, never being wasteful with the football, never really getting caught on the ball. And then also defensively, he said that, I was always in the right position to, make interceptions or press the ball, just sort of force the opposition into turnovers, which eventually helped me move to the next stage of the trials, you understand? So you always have to have that one thing where coaches can look at you and be like, alright, cool, this can translate to 11 aside, especially for your young player. They need to see that, this can translate into men's football, because there's certain things that young players do that you look at them and you're like, yeah, it works for, playing youth level, under 16s, under 18s, maybe even under 23s, but as soon as you get into men's football, it just doesn't translate. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't translate. Maybe you're a young player, maybe you're a number 10 and you do certain things where, you receive the ball and you try to do a bit too much. Maybe it works, like I said, under 18s, under 23s, but then in men's football, you're going to get clamped. You know what I'm saying? You're going to get clamped, you're going to get dispossessed off the ball, simply because once you get into the men's game, players are going to be faster than you, stronger than you, just simply more physical than you, so they're just going to easily brush you off the ball. Whereas if you're playing youth football, you have the strength to sort of hold people off. They're not as physical, they're not as, aggressive as the men's game is. So yeah, my advice to you will literally just be a case that if you're a young player and you want to, make it into a first team and you go to trials and you're trying to impress, make sure that you have that one thing in your locker that, coaches can see, okay, cool, this is the one thing that's special about this guy. Make sure the attribute that you have also translates into the men's game, you know what I'm saying? So any of your sort of 6 out of 10 attributes, try to get them up to a 9 out of 10. Let's say, it can even be a case of, let's say you're a midfielder. You know you have good passing range, but the only problem with you is that you don't like to take risks. Start taking a few more risks, you know what I'm saying? Especially if you're a number 10, or you're an attacking midfielder, your midfielder likes to go forward. Start taking more risks with your passes, so the coach can be like, this guy, you know what I'm saying, this guy, he can play between the lines, he can progress the ball, you know what I'm saying, because some players are afraid to, take risks with their passing. They like to play a lot of backwards, a lot of sideways passes. However, if you're the guy who, you don't mind turning on the ball, playing between the lines, the coach is going to look at you and be like, this guy stands out. He helps the team progress the ball. I could really use that, you know what I'm saying? If you're a winger, take on your man, be aggressive, be positive. Don't be afraid. Even if you lose the ball, it's sort of a thing like, as long as you carried your team up the pitch, if you lose the ball, help your team win it back, you know what I'm saying? But if you're a winger and, you're receiving it and then you're passing it sideways, not taking too many risks, then the coaches are going to look at you and be like, what's he really bringing to the table? Because that was a big theme. Because I remember in one of my trials, I was sitting on the bench, and anytime a winger on the near side, because I was on the bench, let's say I was on the bench, where the coaches were. I was on the bench where the coaches are, waiting to come on to the pitch, or I just come off, because everyone has to rotate in a trial game. So let's say I was on the bench. Anytime a winger got the ball, I heard the coaches saying to each other, they were sort of murmuring, I take him on. And anytime a winger didn't take him on, anytime a winger received the ball and just sort of passed sideways, the coach would sort of sigh, get disappointed, and be like, he's got, and then they start talking and being like, he's got to take him on there, he's got to take a risk, he's got to, help drag his team up the pitch. So especially you wingers and number 10s, this is especially for you wingers and number 10s, because as a winger, number 10, as an attacker, you have to have that X factor. Because it's all well and good, keeping the ball, not being wasteful. I hear it, you're helping your team recycle the ball. However, there has to be certain times where you actually take on your man, try to beat your man, try to be positive, drag your team up the pitch. Because if you don't do it, there's probably gonna be wingers out there who can do that, even if you're not the quickest winger. Because I know that there might be some wingers who aren't the quickest, they aren't absolutely rapid, but just simply being positive, just going at your man at pace, hitting a step over, a body feint, or even just sort of, maybe you're a left winger, you get the ball, you cut inside, and then you play a pass to the striker. You understand? You can still be positive as a pass first winger. Let's take Jadon Sancho, for example, when he was at Dortmund. Even if he didn't, fully take on his man, do all of the step overs, he still get the ball, drive a few yards at his man, and then play the ball into Haaland. You know what I'm saying? Find his striker or find his number 10. That still counts as being positive. You understand? So yeah, as a young player, especially for the attackers, because this really shows for the attackers in terms of having an X factor. Because as an attacker, you need to help your team score goals. Because at the end of the season, you can keep the ball, you can do all of that, but in the decisive moments, you have to be able to create chances and score chances for yourself. So make sure as a young player, you always have an X factor to your game, no matter what position you play. You can be a centre back, right back, winger, DM, number 8, number 10, striker, doesn't matter. Just always make sure you have that something about your game that makes you stand out from other players. So if you have a bunch of 6 out of 10 attributes in your game, make sure you bump that to a 9 out of 10. Like I said before, it doesn't even have to be a case of you actually bumping your attributes. It can literally just be a mental case. You just showing for the ball more. You just checking your shoulders. You just taking that risk with playing forward compared to other people who keep playing backwards and sideways. You know what I'm saying? Not letting the nerves affect you on that trial day, and just going out playing freely. And the coach will look at you and be like, he's got bravery on the ball. He always wants the ball. Anytime he sees a chance to play the ball forward or drive at his man, for example, he wants to do it. That can help you stand out from the rest of the crowd who are playing it safe during the trials, don't really want to lose the ball, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, like I said, any single position on the pitch, you always need to have an X factor, something that makes you stand out from your competition in that position. But that's the video for today. Hope you enjoyed. I've been JT, and I'm out.